Hi, this is Lisa with Holland Designs Crochet. This is a close-up look at my brand new C2C Zigzag Waffle Blanket. So if you've already seen my original Zigzag Waffle Blanket, you know that it's a beautifully textured plush stitch and it has a zigzag pattern to it, and it's reversible, so the same texture on both sides. So that pattern has been very popular, and I also then have been asked to create, as you can see, a corner-to-corner version, C2C version of that same pattern. So some people apparently love C2C blankets, so this is what I have done. So this is my new design from the 2025 Afghan Club, also available separately. And I'm also going to create a stitch demo for this pattern so that it'll walk you through from the very start how to make the stitch and also how to shape it. So this blanket can be used, this pattern can be used to create a blanket that's either square or rectangular, and you can also use it to make a scarf if you'd like. So I will walk you through also the shaping and how we do that, and it can be made to any dimension, so again, customizable. I just made my sample into just a generous baby blanket size, 30 inches by 36 inches, very plush and beautiful. So I will show you how we do this, and it's skill level intermediate, but again, use just only chains and half double crochets basically throughout the entire pattern. So very simple and hopefully easy to master. I am using a K hook and a DK weight yarn. This is the brand Motivera Valley 8 ply, just 100% acrylic, purchased in New Zealand at Spotlight. So it came in a variety of colors, and the one I used for the sample was called Jameson. So I'll just show you how we begin this pattern, and because it is a corner to corner, we're going to start out with just a short row to begin, which is starting with chain 4. So that's our foundation for row 1, chain 4, and now we're just going to work a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook and in the next 2 chains. So half double crochet in second chain from hook and in the next 2 chains. So we have a total stitch count on row 1 of 3 half double crochets, and we're going to then be doing a chain 4, and we're going to be working now back this other way, so it'll say chain 4 turn, and I do find it's easy just to simply pivot my work this way, and as I'm beginning the new row, and you're not going to want to twist anything, so just pivot your work back on the chain, and then when you get to this part, you'll make sure you flip it so it's the back side of that row 1. So for row 2, we're going to do again a half double crochet in second chain from hook and in the next 2 chain. So again, a total of 3 half double crochets to begin there. And then, as I said, make sure you're pivoting, turning that properly so that this is the wrong side of row 1. And now as we're continuing with row 2, the rest of our row 2, we're going to skip the next 2 half double crochets and work 3 half double crochets around the post. So front post, half double crochets around the post of the third half double crochet of row 1. So we have our third one there. So we've got 3 around the same post, and that is the completion of row 2. And again, we're going to do chain 4 and turn. So each row is increasing by stitch count of 3 half double crochets. So we've done our chain 4. This is the beginning of row 3. Again, same process, half double crochet in second chain from hook and in next 2 chains. And then make sure you've turned your work so that this is the wrong side of row 2 now facing you, and working those post stitches again. Skip 2 half double crochets, work 3 front post half double crochets around the post of the third half double crochet, and then repeat that. Skip 2 half double crochets and work your 3 front post half double crochets around the post of the 3rd half double crochet. And as you're working around that post at the end, there's like a chain 1 here at the side from when you worked in the second chain from hook, working back across that foundation chain so that you're actually working around the post, and there's an anchoring chain 1 at the side, so it's quite easy to find where that post is there at the end. And then you just repeat that exact same process for each row as you're increasing, doing chain 4, turn your work a half double crochet and second chain from hook, and then next 2 chains. So you have your 3 half double crochets that you've increased in the stitch count, and then again make sure your work is turned to the correct side, because it can turn on you a bit. Make sure it's with the correct, this is the wrong side of row 3. And now again, skip 2 half double crochets and work the 3 front post half double crochets around the post of the 3rd half double crochet. So that is basically the repetitive stitch that you're doing throughout the whole pattern to create the zigzag waffle effect. Is you're doing the skip 2 half double crochets and the 3 front post half double crochets around the post of the 3rd stitch. And as you continue and create more rows, you'll really begin to see the texture, the ribbed waffled zigzag texture begin to develop. So it may take a few rows before you really see that becoming more visible. And you just continue to repeat that exact process until your work is the correct width that you want it to be. So I'll work a few more rows and I'll come back and show you what I mean by that. Okay, I've worked a few more rows and you can see the texture much more visibly now. So that's the zigzag waffle texture. And basically what you're doing as you're working these increased rows, you're creating a right triangle. So essentially this side and this side are the same length, height and width, right? And so in the pattern, it'll tell you to continue to increase by working the same row that I've just demonstrated for you, increasing by 3 half double crochets at the end of each row or at the beginning of the new row. And you'll work that way, since it's a made to measure pattern, until your base of your triangle reaches desired width. So this little swatch here is 6 inches wide. And so for the blanket, mine was 30 inches wide. So you'll just decide what dimensions you'd like your blanket or your scarf to be. Again, you can create a rectangle or a square, but the initial part of the pattern will be simply creating the right triangle to the correct width that you want for your project. So it would be either blanket width or scarf width. And that's when you know that you have reached the correct size and you're ready to move on to either the square or the rectangular shaping instructions. So I'm going to show you then what you need to do to begin the shaping. So once you've completed the last row and you've got the width that you wanted, rather than doing the chain 4 at the end, you're simply going to do a chain 2 and turn your work. So you're no longer going to be increasing stitches at this edge, and you're going to begin to decrease. So you're going to skip the first 2 stitches and simply work a front post slip stitch around the post of the 3rd half double crochet. So it's chain 2, turn, and then skip 2 half double crochets and a front post slip stitch around the post of the 3rd. And then from there you just continue with your standard stitch, which is skip 2 half double crochets and work your 3 half double crochets around the post of the 3rd, and repeat that front post stitch across the entire row. So at this edge you've you have an increase, but you've also done a decrease because you've worked a slip stitch rather than working your 3 half double crochets. You've worked a slip stitch. That means that this is now going to start to square as you continue. This will become an edge that squares. Now, if you're going to work a rectangular shape, you would do that decreasing to create the square on this edge, but you would also continue to increase on this side. So you would end this row with a chain 4 turn, and then begin the next one in the same way with your 3 half double crochets to begin. So it would be an increase on one side and a decrease on the other, and that's what begins to create a rectangular shape. So it would be lengthening, but the width would be remaining the same. So you can see how that would be used to create, either a rectangular blanket or a scarf. So I'll just finish this row and then show you how a rectangular shape is made on the next row as well as we come back, just so you can see exactly how that is done as we start to square the one side. So my sample blanket, I made mine rectangular. So I did the rectangular instructions in the pattern until it was 36 inches tall. So again, you would just do a chain 4 turn at this side. So you have the increase on this edge. And then I'll work across this row and just show you how we end this row so that it's still going to be squared. Okay, I'm at the end of the row now. So I'm going to work my last set of 3 front post half double crochets here. And this set here, this is not, this is no longer half double crochets. You can see it's a chain 2 and there's a slip stitch there at the edge. So I'm not going to work anything around a post here at the edge because this is my decrease. So I'm simply going to just leave that. So the end of my row is now where the half double crochets end, not including this chain 2 here at the edge. So then I'm going to continue to square this side. So I'm going to do a chain 2 and turn my work again. And again, begin this row by skipping 2 of the half double crochets and working my front post slip stitch around the post of the third. So that's my decrease again. And then continuing with my regular front post half double crochet stitches across the row again. So you can see how this shaping now is beginning to square on this edge, and you have a little bit of a natural sort of edging forming there. And so again, as I said, this is creating a rectangular shape following instructions this way, where you're decreasing at this edge and increasing at this edge. So you're going to begin to create that rectangular shape. This will continue to square and this will continue to lengthen. If you were going to just be doing a square rather than a rectangle, the instructions in the pattern will tell you how to do that, and that will be simply by doing the chain 2 turn at each end of your row. So you won't be lengthening anymore. You would just be doing the chain 2 turn at each side and doing the decreases at each side of each row. So that's the one difference between the rectangular shaping or the square shaping. So I'm just demonstrating the rectangular shaping for you right now. And then after you've completed the rectangular piece and it's the length that you want it to be, so like for the blanket it was 36 inches tall or long, then at that point you begin to work the decrease rows where it's only chain 2 at the end of each row, and that will continue to fill in the rest of the shape. It'll continue to either complete the square if you had a square, or it will continue to fill in the rest of the rectangular shape so that you end up having a squaring happening along both edges. But I'll just work a few more rows so you can see how this continues to lengthen. So this is doing chain 4 turn and how it continues to square. So I'll work a few more rows and come back and show you what it looks like as I have more of a rectangular shape created. So I've worked another couple rows, and I'm just going to measure this edge to see what it is currently. So it's about 8 inches long, 8 inches tall. So if I wanted to complete this as just a swatch, it would be 6 inches by 8 inches. Just a bit of a rectangular piece. So you can see again this sort of squaring on this side, and I was lengthening on this edge. But now I'm gonna create just a rectangle. So I'll just do a chain 2 turn at this long edge, and then do my decrease by skipping 2 stitches and working my front post slip stitch there, and then continuing across the row. So this is going to now continue, start to square this side as well. And as I was saying, either creating the rest of the square, or in this case, filling in the rest of the rectangle. So both of your edges will be squaring at this point. And you're just going to be doing the chain 2 turn at each edge and the decrease, which is the front post slip stitch as you're beginning the new row. So your stitch count will continue to decrease by 3 half double crochets on each row. And again, as I come to the end of my row, I'm not going to work into that very last chain and slip stitch there at the edge. I'm just going to work around the actual half double crochets. So I'll do chain 2 turn here at this edge again, and skip 2 and work my slip stitch around the 3rd. That's my decrease, and then continue back with my front post half double crochets. Now, since it is a corner to corner blanket, sometimes these blankets may require just a little bit of shaping or blocking at the when it's finished. I did find this one's pretty good. It maybe has a slight point at this edge because that's where you're starting, and maybe at the other end as well when you get to this far corner. So you might just need a little bit of shaping, or if you do add a little bit of an edging, that'll help it to hold its shape as well. But overall, it's pretty good at maintaining a square or rectangular shape. It's not too difficult to achieve that. I'll just complete this row and show you again how this side is going to be squaring and filling in the rectangle. Okay, so this is my last set here of 3 half double crochets for my row. I'm not working into that chain 2 slip stitch at the end there. I'm doing my chain 2 turn now at this edge again, and my decrease by working my front post slip stitch, and then continuing back across the row. So each of these rows is just a decrease row now. And of course, as you continue, it gets quicker because you're having fewer stitches on each row. It's kind of fun to fill it in. It kind of goes quickly at the end here. The last thing I'll do is show you how the last row of this pattern works, the last row or two, just so you can see exactly how to finish up that last corner of the blanket. And I think this will look really pretty in a variety of colors, whether a solid color or any kind of variegated yarn. I always think it's neat when you can find a textured stitch pattern that looks great in variegated yarns. This is quite a variegated yarn. Obviously, you can also do like a striping effect with a yarn that has wider sections of color. So I'll just work a couple more rows and then show you how to finish this final corner of this rectangle. Okay, you can almost see the rectangle. It's not quite finished. I've got 9 half double crochets, actually 6 I think. So this is my chain 2 slip stitch, and I've got 6 half double crochets currently on this row. So I'll just show you how we finish the final 2 rows here. I think it is chain 2, turn, slip stitch around the 3rd there at the edge. So now I'm going to have my last 3 half double crochets here in the 3rd, around the 3rd post. So that's, I'm down to a stitch count of 3. And then again, I'm going to do chain 2, turn. And my last row is literally just skip 2 and a front post, slip stitch around the 3rd. And at that point, you can just fasten off, or you can also do some sort of an edging. I haven't edged my sample, but you could obviously work maybe like a foundation round of single crochet. You always place 2 or 3 stitches at the corners, and then you can place maybe 2 stitches in each of these points. You just have to see what the spacing is so that you get a nice even edge. And working in the chains at the bottom. So you could basically just create a foundation edging with single crochet, and then from there you can do whatever kind of edging you like. Obviously I have on YouTube my knit look ribbed edging, which I used on my original Zigzag Waffle Blanket. That one has the half double slip stitch and back loops only. You can use any kind of edging you like. So that is my completed rectangle, just a small swatch here. So again, it was 6 inches by, I think it was 8 inches. So just a small swatch. You can see how that creates a rectangular shape. It's very stretchy and plush. It does use, a bit of yarn, a little bit extra yarn than a non-textured, non-plush blanket would use. So, but it's lovely. And of course, if you have extra yarn that you want to use up, it's fantastic stash buster type of pattern, and really, really lovely. So I hope you do enjoy this design and enjoy working it up. It does work up pretty quickly, and it's pretty mindless and repetitive. So happy stitching.